called you here. This is not your yard to touch.
She was sitting out here scared of another city notice.
Sir, set the trimmer down until I hear from her.
Officer, I asked him because my hands cannot do this anymore.
She spent 40 years saving lives. Now she needs help.
All right, let him finish. This is clearly authorized.
Evelyn, an 88-year-old retired emergency room doctor, sat quietly in her wheelchair while a police officer stood beside an angry neighbor demanding that I stop working immediately. The neighbor kept pointing at me and insisting I had no right to be on the property, but what nobody mentioned at first was that Evelyn had received another city warning notice only days earlier. If the weeds, overgrown flowers, and sidewalk obstructions were not removed soon, she could be facing hundreds of dollars in fines on a fixed retirement income that barely covered her medical expenses. Evelyn lived alone in Boise, Idaho. Severe arthritis had robbed her of the strength she once had, and chronic lung disease forced her to rely on oxygen throughout the day. The woman who had spent more than 40 years treating patients in emergency rooms now struggled to walk across her own living room without becoming exhausted. The yard that she once maintained with pride had slowly become impossible for her to manage. Tall weeds crowded the sidewalk, overgrown plants blocked access to parts of the property, and every passing week brought more anxiety about what another city notice might mean. When I first arrived, I was simply trying to clear the sidewalk and make the property safer before the situation became worse. Instead, the neighbor immediately confronted me and demanded to know who I was. Before I could explain much, she called the police and reported that a stranger was working on the property. When the officer arrived, he only had one version of the story. From his perspective, he saw an upset neighbor, a man holding a trimmer, and a property that looked neglected. He told me to stop until he could determine what was happening. The neighbor seemed satisfied, believing she had won. But then Evelyn slowly rolled her wheelchair forward and spoke for herself. Her voice was weak, yet every word carried weight. She explained that she had personally asked me to help. She explained that she could no longer physically maintain the property because of her health. She explained that the city warning had left her terrified because she simply could not afford another fine. As the officer listened, the entire situation began to change. He learned that Evelyn was not ignoring her responsibilities. She was an elderly woman facing challenges that many people never consider until they experience them personally. He learned that she had spent decades serving her community as a physician, helping strangers through some of the worst moments of their lives. He learned that her children lived far away and that most days she faced these struggles alone. The officer looked around the property again, this time seeing more than tall weeds. He saw an elderly woman trapped between declining health and regulations she no longer had the strength to satisfy. The confrontation quickly lost its